The meeting room was huge. Minho sat in the middle looking at all the alien teachers around him. They were upset. Their voices filled the room with strange sounds, clicks, whistles, and deep rumbles. Minho was a human teacher. He was 30 years old with dark hair and a friendly smile. He taught alien children from many different planets. The alien teachers did not like what they saw in his classroom. Vela was a Kilari. She had 3 eyes and moving tentacles on her head. She spoke first. Her words came through a translator box. "Teacher Minho, we have a problem. The young ones in your class are copying you. The Quillari children copy your words. The Deneth children copy your hand movements. Even the Raxian babies try to make faces like yours. This is wrong." Minho leaned back in his chair. He looked relaxed. This made some of the aliens uncomfortable. In their cultures, you sit up straight when talking to important people. "What is the problem?" Minho asked. Thek spoke next. He was a Deneth, very big and strong. His people had traveled to other planets long before humans learned to make fire. "The children copy everything you do. They say your phrases. They move like you. They try to smile like you, even when they cannot. This is not normal. Each species should act like their own species." Minho smiled bigger. "Yes, they do copy me." Everyone became quiet. Vela's tentacles curled up. She was confused. "You know about this?" she asked. "Yes, I want them to do it," Minho said. The aliens looked at each other with worry. The Quillari were very concerned. Their species had strict rules about behavior. If a child acted different from the rules, they thought something was wrong with the child. Vela's voice became sharp. "This is very bad. Our rules say young ones should copy their own species only. If they copy other species, they get confused. They do not know who they are. Their minds become mixed up." "Does that really happen?" Minho asked calmly. Thex made a deep sound. "Our studies prove it. We have known this for 10,000 years. Teaching methods must match each species. This is the most important rule." Minho nodded slowly. He reached into his bag and pulled out a flat device. Most aliens used brain computers or crystal storage. Minho used a simple tablet. This had caused many discussions before. "Can I show you something?" he asked. The aliens looked at each other. Their rules said any evidence must be reviewed for many weeks before being shown. But they were curious. They wanted to see. "Go ahead," Vela said. Minho touched his tablet. A hologram appeared in the air. It showed his classroom. The room looked messy and chaotic to the aliens. Young creatures from many planets moved freely. Some sat, some stood, some floated in special gravity fields. All of them were talking. They were not asking and answering questions in the normal way. They were having real conversations. A young Quillari was explaining something to a Hraxian baby. She moved her tentacles in big gestures. The Hraxian changed colors on its shell, but it also tried to move like the Quillari's tentacles. "Interesting," Vela said quietly. "This was 3 months ago," Minho said. "Watch what happens next." In the hologram, Minho walked over to the 2 young ones. He bent down to their level. Both children looked at him with excited faces. "I asked them what they were talking about," Minho explained. "The Quillari girl is named Sora. She was trying to explain water molecules to Clix the Hraxian. But Clix was having trouble understanding. Hraxians sense the world through electromagnetic feelings, not by seeing or touching." In the hologram, Sora's tentacles drooped down. She was frustrated. Then Clix did something amazing. The baby's shell flashed through many colors very fast. At the same time, it tried to move its front parts like Sora's tentacles. Sora's tentacles shot up straight. She started moving again. But this time, she also changed the light patterns on her skin. Quillari usually only do this when they are looking for a mate or defending their territory. "They created a new language," Minho said softly. "Not my language. Not Quillari language. Not Hraxian language. Something completely new. They made it together because they wanted to understand each other." Everyone was silent. Thex leaned forward. His huge eyes stared at the hologram. "How long did this take?" "About 45 minutes. "That is impossible," Vela said firmly. "Learning language takes many months. You need training and practice over and over." "Learning formal language does," Minho agreed. "But talking to each other is different." He touched the tablet again. The hologram changed. Now it showed a different day. A young Deneth, very small, was trying to arrange geometric shapes. The task was easy for Deneth children, but this child kept arranging them in patterns that made no sense. Minho sat down next to the young Deneth. He picked up a shape and started arranging them in his own way. Not the Deneth way. A different pattern. The child watched, then slowly began copying him. That is direct copying, Vela said. You are teaching the wrong method, am I? Minho asked. Keep watching. In the hologram, the young Deneth suddenly stopped copying. It looked at both patterns. Minho's in the traditional Deneth pattern. Then slowly it started making a third pattern. This new pattern used parts of both but followed neither one completely. It was something totally new. When it finished, the child looked up at Minho. The human smiled and nodded. The child's name is Tai, Minho said. 3 months later, Tai showed that pattern to the top Deneth mathematics group. They now use it for quantum calculations. It works 40% better than their old method. Thex's huge body went very still. A child did this? A child who was allowed to explore, Minho corrected gently. A child who was shown that copying is not the goal. Copying is just the beginning. Vela's tentacles curled and uncurled nervously. But the danger. Without proper guidance from their own species, how do you stop mistakes? How do you make sure they remember their own culture? Minho looked at her. His smile faded. He became serious. With respect, Teacher Vela, I think you are asking the wrong question. Then what is the right question? Why do the cubs imitate my words? The room became completely silent. Minho let the question hang in the air for a moment. Because they are curious, he said simply. The next day, Minho was called to another meeting. This time it was much bigger. The room had representatives from 37 different alien species. Each species had thousands of years of teaching traditions. Minho brought another human teacher named Hana. Where Minho was relaxed and casual, Hana was neat and formal. Her dark hair was pulled back. She stood very straight. Together they showed how humans could be both messy and organized at the same time. This confused many aliens. Elder Bryn spoke first. Bryn was a crystalline, a being made of living crystal that made musical sounds to talk. Crystallines understood mathematics before they even had physical bodies. You talk about curiosity like it is a teaching method. This is not clear. Curiosity is a basic animal instinct. It helps animals survive in dangerous places, but it is bad for advanced learning. Hana stepped forward. Her hands were behind her back. With respect, Elder, I think you misunderstand what curiosity really is. May I show you something? The aliens talked among themselves. Sounds, lights, and smells filled the room as they discussed. Finally, they agreed. Go ahead. Hana took a small cube from her pocket. It was just a plain metal cube, about the size of her hand. She put it on the table. This is a puzzle box. Humans invented these thousands of years ago. The goal is simple. Open it. But there are no instructions, no rules, no steps to follow. You just have to figure it out. She looked at the group. Would anyone like to try? The aliens looked uncertain. Finally, a young Quilari scientist named Yun reached out with his tentacles. He picked up the cube. He looked at it carefully. His 3 eyes scanned every side. His tentacles felt for openings or buttons. After several minutes, he put it down. I cannot see how it works. I would need to study similar devices. I need to understand the theory of mechanical puzzles. Then I need to make a system for solving it. Hana nodded. That is a perfectly logical answer. In traditional education, that is exactly what you would do. Research, theory, systematic steps. This is the foundation of galactic learning. This is how your species learned to travel faster than light. This is how crystallines developed dimensional mathematics. This is how the Deneth mapped quantum space. She picked up the cube. But humans did something different. Before we had writing, before we had formal language, before we had any of that, we had this. She twisted the cube. It clicked. She twisted it another way. A panel slid open. One more twist, and the cube fell apart into 4 pieces. How did you know how to do that? Hyun asked. His tentacles curled with interest. I did not know. I just tried things. I moved it around. I tested it. I played with it. I let my curiosity guide me. Eventually, I found the answer. But that wastes time, Elder Bryn said. The crystal being's musical tones showed disagreement. You tried many things that did not work. Did I waste time? Hana asked gently. Each try taught me something about the cube. Each failure showed me what would not work. And more importantly, each attempt was interesting. It made my mind work in a way that reading instructions never would. Minho stepped forward. That is what we see in our students. When young beings are curious, when they can explore and experiment, they do not just learn faster, they learn differently. They make connections that systematic teaching would never create. He turned on his tablet. A hologram filled the room. It showed a different classroom. To the aliens, it looked like complete chaos. Young creatures from many species were everywhere. They were doing dozens of different things at the same time. We call this an open learning environment. No structured lessons, no fixed curriculum. Just resources, guidance, and freedom to explore. This is chaos, Thex rumbled. His deep voice showed concern. Where is the organization? Where is the progression from basic to advanced? How do you measure their progress? Just watch, Hana said. In one corner of the hologram, a young Deneth named Jay was working with a crystalline child. Jay was trying to explain gravity using physical models and hand gestures. The crystalline was not understanding. Crystallines sense the universe through musical frequencies, not through sight or touch. Then something amazing happened. A young human child, only 5 years old, walked over with a toy. It was just a ball on a string. The child began swinging the ball in circles. The crystalline's musical patterns changed immediately. Crystallines understand rhythmic motion naturally, Hana explained. But gravity is about physical mass, which crystallines do not naturally sense. However, when they saw the ball moving in circles, they could translate it into musical frequencies they understand. In the hologram, the three young beings started working together. The Deneth's math precision, the crystalline's musical sensing, and the human child's natural understanding of movement combined into something greater. Within 2 hours, they developed a new model for orbital mechanics that works for all three ways of sensing, Minho said. The Deneth physics group has asked them to present it officially. Hyun's tentacles stretched to their full length. This showed intense focus. But how did they know to work together? How did they figure out each other's strengths and weaknesses? They did not know, Minho said. They were simply curious about each other. Jay wanted to share knowledge. The crystalline wanted to understand. The human child wanted to play. All three were driven by curiosity. That led to real learning. Elder Bryn's musical tones became thoughtful. This suggests that curiosity is not just a survival instinct. It is an advanced thinking tool. Exactly, Hana said. And more than that, it is universal. Every species in this room, despite our huge differences, shares this trait. We all want to know things. We all want to understand. We all want to explore. It is the one thing that connects us across every biological and cultural difference. But your students copy you, Vela said, returning to the original worry. They adopt human behaviors, human expressions, human ways of thinking. How is this not cultural pollution? Minho smiled. Show them, Hana. Hana touched her tablet. Images appeared showing young beings from Minho's class at their homes. They were with their own species, doing traditional activities. This is Sora. At home with her Quillari family, she follows all traditional customs perfectly. She does the ritual dances. She maintains proper social order. She shows perfect species-appropriate behavior. The next image showed Sora in Minho's classroom. She was waving her tentacles wildly. She was trying to smile with her mouth parts, which was physically impossible for Quillari. But she tried anyway. But in class, she experiments. She plays. She tries different behaviors like humans try different clothes. She is not losing her Quillari identity. She is expanding it. She is learning that there are many ways to communicate, many ways to express ideas, many ways to be. This is code switching, Hyun said suddenly. His tentacles brightened with understanding. Like how we all switch to common language when we address the council. Then we return to our native languages at home. You are teaching them behavioral code switching. Exactly, Minho said. And, more than that, we are teaching them that it is okay to be curious about other ways of being. Learning from other species does not make you less yourself. It makes you richer. Thex leaned forward. His massive body made the platform shake. You said curiosity is universal, but humans seem to have more of it than other species. Why? Both human teachers became quiet. They looked at each other. Some silent communication passed between them. Finally, Hana spoke. Because we had to be curious, she said quietly. We had no choice. The meeting was supposed to end. It was late. The aliens needed to return to their homes and their special environments. But nobody moved. Everyone stayed quiet, focused on the two humans in the center of the room. Explain what you mean, Elder Bryn said. The crystal being's musical tones were commanding. Hana looked at Minho. He nodded. She took a deep breath and began speaking. Earth, our home planet, is not a good planet. It is not the worst in the galaxy, but it is far from perfect. The weather changes all the time. The ground shakes and splits. Many dangerous animals hunt us. Resources are limited. Our evolution was very hard. Minho added more explanation. Most species develop intelligence to fit one specific environment. The Quillari evolved in stable places where pattern recognition and social cooperation were most important. The Deneth developed on high-gravity worlds where physical strength and math precision were necessary. The crystallines emerged from quantum substrates where musical resonance was the structure of reality itself. But humans, Hana continued, humans evolved in an environment that kept changing. The climate shifted. Predator populations went up and down. Food availability changed with seasons. We could not specialize in one thing. Any trait that worked perfectly in one situation would be bad in another situation. A young Quillari researcher named Day spoke up. So you developed adaptability. That is not unique. Many species have flexible behavior responses. Yes, Minho agreed. But we took it further. We did not just adapt to our environment. We adapted our environment to fit us, and we did it through curiosity. He turned on the tablet again. This time, the hologram showed not a classroom but Earth itself. Ancient Earth before cities and technology. Humans were still learning how to survive. This is about 2 million years ago, Hana said. Early humans. We barely looked different from other apes. But watch what we do. The hologram showed a group of early humans near a river. They watched animals drinking water. But instead of just copying the behavior, one human picked up a hollow piece of wood. The human began experimenting with it, filling it with water, pouring it out, trying different angles. That human did not need to do that, Minho said. We could drink directly from the river like every other animal. But we were curious about whether there was a different way, a better way. That curiosity, that willingness to experiment, led to the invention of containers. Containers led to water transport. Water transport led to irrigation. Irrigation led to civilization. The hologram shifted. It showed humans discovering fire, learning to control it, using it for cooking, for warmth, for light, for working with metal. Each new invention built on the last one, all driven by the desire to understand and control the world. Other species discovered fire too, Yun observed. The Quillari learned to grow glowing fungi. The Deneth learned to use underground heat. These are not unique to humans. You are right, Hana said. But look at the timeline. A chart appeared. It showed how different species evolved over time. The Quillari took about 3 million years to progress from using tools to traveling in space. The Deneth took 5 million years. The crystallines took even longer. Humans did it in less than 300,000 years. The room exploded with noise, clicking, whistling, resonating sounds, all expressing the same feeling. This is impossible. Your data must be wrong, Thex said. No species advances that fast without help from another advanced species or genetic engineering. The data is correct, Minho said calmly. You can check it with your own historical records. Humans achieved technological civilization incredibly fast. We did it because we were curious about everything. Hana showed more holograms. Most species develop deep knowledge in specific areas. The Quillari mastered biology and social systems. The Deneth excelled at physics and engineering. The crystallines understood mathematics at a fundamental level. Each species followed a logical path through their natural strengths. But humans, Minho said, humans were curious about everything. We did not just study what we were good at. We studied what interested us. One human might spend their whole life studying stars. Another might dedicate themselves to understanding flowers. Another might focus on why humans behave certain ways. We did not see these as separate fields. We saw them as pieces of one big puzzle. The hologram showed a web of connections. It demonstrated how human knowledge in one field helped make breakthroughs in other fields. Astronomy leading to better navigation, biology inspiring new engineering approaches, psychology influencing building design. This is inefficient, Vela protested. Specialization allows deeper understanding. Trying to master multiple fields makes expertise weaker. Does it? Hannah asked. Or does it create connections that specialists would never see? Tell me, Teacher Vela, how did your species develop faster than light travel? Vela's tentacles curled with pride. Through dedicated research over thousands of years, our physicists worked systematically through theory until they found the solution. And it was beautiful work, Minho said sincerely. The Quillari drive system is elegant and efficient. But let me tell you how humans solved the same problem. A new hologram appeared. It showed a human research team. Unlike the ordered structure of traditional research facilities, this one looked messy and chaotic. That is Dr. Inha, Hannah said, pointing to a woman in the hologram. She was writing equations on one screen while talking to a colleague. She is a theoretical physicist. But she is also an amateur musician. She plays the violin. What does music have to do with faster than light travel? Dee asked. Everything, as it turned out, Minho said. Dr. Inha was studying quantum field harmonics. The mathematics was extremely complex. Traditional approaches were not working. Then one day, while playing violin, she noticed something about how harmonics interact in musical tones. She wondered if the same principles might work with quantum fields. That is absurd, Elder Bryn said. Musical harmonics and quantum field theory are completely separate domains. Are they? Hannah asked. Dr. Inha's curiosity about the connection led to a breakthrough. She applied harmonic principles to quantum field equations. She discovered a new approach to space-time manipulation. The human version of faster-than-light travel was developed in less than 10 years after that insight. The room was silent again, but this time the silence felt different. Less resistant, more thoughtful. You are suggesting, Yun said slowly, that human mental inefficiency is actually a form of efficiency, that by pursuing seemingly unrelated interests, humans create unexpected connections that lead to innovation. We are not suggesting it, Minho said. We are observing it, and we see the same thing happening with our students. When we let them follow their curiosity, when we encourage them to explore across species lines and traditional boundaries, they make connections we never expected. But this creates a problem, Thex said. His huge body shifted, showing deep thought. If curiosity is so powerful, if cross-species learning is so beneficial, then why did it take humanity to bring this approach here? Why did none of our species, with our thousands of years of advancement, discover this method? Minho and Hannah looked at each other. When Hannah spoke, her voice was gentle but firm. Because you were all successful. Your species achieved spaceflight. You developed advanced civilizations. You created stable societies. Your teaching methods work. They have worked for millions of years. Why would you question them? But humans, Minho continued, we almost did not make it. Multiple times in our history we came close to going extinct. We fought wars that destroyed our planet. We nearly killed our own environment. We were forced to learn, to adapt, to try new approaches because the old ones kept failing. Our curiosity was not just an advantage. It was a survival mechanism. So you are saying, Vela said slowly, that human teaching methods come from desperation, not from wisdom? We are saying, Hannah replied, that sometimes the student who struggles learns the most valuable lessons. Sometimes the very thing that makes you weak is also what makes you strong. 3 months later, the Galactic Council made an unusual decision. They would create an experimental program based on human teaching methods. 5 schools across 5 different worlds would use these new approaches while still respecting local cultures. They would monitor and evaluate the results for 1 year. Minho and Hannah were assigned to train teachers from the participating species. The training center was on a neutral space station orbiting a young star. Teachers from across the galaxy arrived. Each brought their own traditions, expectations, and lots of doubt. The first day of training was a complete disaster. This is impossible, said Teacher Vin. He was a Quillari with over 3,000 years of teaching experience. His tentacles, shook with frustration as he tried to manage a mock classroom. How can I maintain proper structure when students are doing 17 different things at once? Minho watched from the back of the room. He did not respond right away. He just watched as Vin tried to organize the simulated students into groups. They scattered again moments later. What do you think the problem is? Minho asked finally. Vin turned to face him. His tentacles were pulled tight with stress. The students are not following rules. They refuse to stay focused. The learning environment is chaos. But are they learning? Minho asked. Vin paused. He looked back at the simulated classroom. Despite the apparent chaos, information was being shared. Students were working together, asking questions, experimenting. It was not organized, but knowledge was being transferred and combined. Yes, he admitted, but inefficiently. With proper organization, they would learn more. Would they? Minho walked to the control panel and brought up data. The simulation has been tracking knowledge gain. Look at the engagement scores, the memory retention rates, the creative problem solving. Now compare them to standard Quillari educational results. Vin studied the data. His tentacles gradually relaxed as he processed the information. The chaotic classroom was producing results that were better than traditional methods in almost every way. I do not understand, he said finally. How can disorder create better results? Hana joined them. Her face showed understanding. It is not disorder, Teacher Vin. It is organized complexity. Think of it like a Quillari tide pool ecosystem. To an outsider, it looks like chaos. Hundreds of species interacting in apparently random ways. But actually, it is a sophisticated web of relationships that self-organizes without central control. Vin's tentacles brightened. Quillari tide pools were central to their culture. They had countless philosophical texts about them. You are saying the classroom is an ecosystem. Exactly, Minho said. Your role is not to control it. Your role is to maintain the conditions that allow it to thrive. You provide resources. You remove obstacles. You occasionally introduce new elements. But you do not dictate how every interaction unfolds. Over the following weeks, Vin was not the only teacher struggling. A Deneth teacher named Bora found it painful to watch students make mistakes she could easily correct. A crystalline teacher struggled with the concept of emotional engagement in learning. Even human teachers in training found the approach challenging. But slowly, understanding began to develop. It came not from lectures but from experience, from observation, from their own curiosity about this new approach. The breakthrough moment came during a simulation exercise. The trainee teachers were managing a mock crisis. A simulated student asked a question that none of them could answer. In traditional teaching, this was a serious failure. Teachers were supposed to be authorities, sources of all knowledge. Admitting you did not know something was considered unprofessional. Bora encountered this scenario first. A simulated student asked about the connection between quantum mechanics and organic chemistry. This was a highly specialized topic outside Bora's expertise. She froze. Her massive body went rigid with uncertainty. Hana was monitoring the simulation. What are you thinking, Teacher Bora? I do not know the answer, Bora said. Her deep voice showed distress. I have failed the student. Have you? Hana asked. What would happen if you told the student that you do not know? Bora looked confused. I would lose respect. The student would lose confidence in me. Educational integrity would be damaged. Or, Minho said, the student would learn that even teachers do not know everything. And more importantly, they would learn what to do when faced with an unknown question. Try it. Tell the student you do not know, and see what happens. Bora hesitated. Then she turned back to the simulation. I do not know the answer to your question, but I am curious to find out. How should we investigate this together? The simulation played out. The student, instead of being disappointed, became excited. Together with Bora, they began exploring resources, asking other students for input, breaking the question into smaller pieces. The learning became collaborative and dynamic. When they finally found an answer, it was more meaningful because they discovered it together. Bora came out of the simulation looking stunned. That was amazing. I learned something. Not just the student. Me too. Welcome to curiosity-based education, Minho said with a smile, where teachers are learners too. This became the turning point. Once teachers understood they did not need all the answers, that being curious alongside students was not weakness but strength, the training accelerated rapidly. By the end of training, the teachers had not only adopted the human method, they had begun adapting it to their own cultures. Vin developed a Quillari version that used tide pool philosophy. Bora created a Deneth framework based on natural mentorship patterns. The crystalline teacher found ways to integrate musical resonance into collaborative learning. The human method was flexible enough to fit any species while keeping its core principle, curiosity as the foundation of learning. When the trained teachers returned to their worlds to start the program, Minho and Hana stayed on the station as advisors. They watched progress, provided guidance, and waited to see if their approach would work on a larger scale. Results began coming in after the first few months. On the Quillari homeworld, Vin's students were not only meeting traditional learning goals but exceeding them. More significantly, they were developing knowledge across different fields at unprecedented rates. Young Quillari, who were supposed to study biology, showed talent in social systems. Those marked for engineering became interested in philosophy. The Quillari Education Authority was deeply troubled by this. Specialization tracking was fundamental to their society, but they could not argue with the results. On the Deneth world, Bora's students were working on projects normally reserved for advanced researchers. A group of young ones working without direct supervision developed a new approach to gravity shielding that reduced energy use by 30%. But the most remarkable results came from the mixed species school on the neutral station. Here, young beings from dozens of species learned side by side. Their curiosity was not limited by species-specific rules. The innovations coming from this environment were so numerous that the council established a separate department just to evaluate them. One evening, as Minho and Hana reviewed the latest reports, Elder Bryn contacted them directly. The crystalline's musical tones carried an unusual quality: humility. You were correct. We were wrong. The question is not why the young ones copy your words. The question is why we elders ever stopped copying each other. 10 years after the experimental program began, the Galactic Council met to review the final results. They would decide the future of cross-species, curiosity-based education. The chamber was completely full. Representatives from every member species were present. The decision made here would affect the education of trillions of young beings across the galaxy. Minho and Hana stood at the center again. But this time they were not alone. With them were Vin, Bora, and representatives from each experimental school. Behind them were dozens of young beings from various species. All were students who participated in the program. Elder Bryn opened the meeting. The data is impressive. Academic achievement has increased across all measurements. Innovation rates have accelerated. Problem-solving abilities have improved. But there are concerns, Thek spoke next. Traditional education systems have served our species well for millions of years. They maintain cultural identity. They preserve knowledge. They ensure social stability. These new methods, while producing good results, also introduce unpredictability. Students question authority more. They challenge established practices. They blur boundaries between species-specific roles. Is that a problem? The question came not from Minho or Hana, but from Sora. The young Quillari stood at the front of the student group. Her tentacles were extended confidently. The entire chamber fell silent. Young beings did not speak in council meetings. It simply was not done, Sora continued. Counselor Thex, you said we question authority. But should we not? My teacher Vin taught me that questioning is not disrespect. It is how we learn. When I ask why something is done a certain way, I am not challenging it. I'm trying to understand it. Sometimes understanding leads to better ways. Before anyone could respond, Tay spoke up. The young Deneth who had changed mathematics for their species. And you said we blur boundaries between species roles. But are those boundaries real? I am a Deneth. I will always be a Deneth. But why should being Deneth mean I can only think in certain ways? My friend Clix is Hraxian. They sense the universe through electromagnetic feelings. That is different from how I sense it, but when we share our views, we both understand more. Clicks rippled colors across their shell in agreement. Through their translator, they added, "The teachers did not teach us to be like humans. They taught us to be curious about everything, including each other. That is not losing our identity. That is expanding our understanding." More students began speaking, a wave of voices from different species, all saying variations of the same thing. They had learned how to learn. They discovered that knowledge was not limited. It was infinite and could be explored. They found that asking questions was not ignorance but wisdom. Teacher Vela, who had been one of the most doubtful members during the original evaluation, raised her tentacles for attention. The room became quiet. "I have a confession," she said. "When this program began, I was certain it would fail. I believed the human approach was fundamentally incompatible with established galactic education. I participated expecting to document its failures." She paused, looking at the students. "I was wrong. Not about everything. There are real concerns about implementation and cultural preservation. But I was wrong about the basic idea. I believed curiosity was a basic instinct to be channeled and controlled. Now I understand that curiosity is the highest form of intelligence. Our attempts to control it were actually making it weaker." Vela turned to face Minho and Hana. "You asked us why the young ones copy human words. I thought you were being too simple. But you were not. You were asking us to remember something we had forgotten. Learning begins with wanting to know." Elder Bryn's musical tones filled the chamber. The council must now decide. Do we adopt this method as a new galactic standard? Do we keep traditional systems? Or do we seek some compromise? Hyun stood to speak. Over the past 10 years, he had become one of the program's strongest supporters. "I propose we do none of those things." The chamber erupted with confused sounds. Hyun waited for quiet. "This whole debate is flawed. We are asking whether to implement the human method as if it were a fixed system. But that is not what the humans taught us. They taught us to be curious, to experiment, to adapt. Each species, each world, each school should develop approaches that work for them. The only standard we should adopt is the principle of curiosity itself." Day added, "Hyun is right. Look at the experimental schools. They do not all use identical methods. Teacher Vin's Quillari school uses tide pool philosophy. Teacher Bora's Deneth school uses mentorship structures. The mixed species station has something completely unique. They are all different, but they all work because they are built on the same foundation, letting curiosity guide learning." Minho stepped forward. "If I may, there is something else to consider. Humans did not invent curiosity. Every species here has it. We just never suppressed it. Our chaotic history meant we could not afford to. But the capacity for curiosity-driven learning exists in all of you. We have seen it in the students. We have seen it in the teachers. It is not about adopting human methods. It is about recognizing and nurturing what already exists." Hana added, "The real question is not whether this approach works. The data proves it does. The real question is whether you are willing to accept the uncertainty that comes with it. Curiosity-driven learning is less predictable. You cannot always plan the outcomes. Students might become interested in unexpected things. They might make connections you never anticipated. They might question things you assumed were settled. That is uncomfortable. But that discomfort is where growth happens." Thex was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke with surprising gentleness. "My own offspring participated in the program. She is young by Deneth standards, barely 50 years old. Before the program, she followed the prescribed path perfectly. She would become an engineer like her genetic ancestors." He paused. Pride entered his voice. "Now she wants to be a poet. She discovered that the mathematical precision we Deneth value can apply to language, to rhythm, to metaphor. She is creating a new form of art that combines engineering principles with emotional expression. Her teachers say she is brilliant." Another pause. "I was horrified at first. Engineering is stable and respected. Poetry is uncertain. But then I read her work. I understood she was not abandoning our culture. She was expanding it. She was taking the best of what it means to be Deneth and combining it with something new. She did it because she was curious." The chamber went completely still. Everyone understood the significance. For a Deneth to publicly acknowledge deviation from prescribed life paths, especially with pride, was unprecedented. Elder Bryn resonated at a frequency that meant decision. "The council will vote. But first I wish to share something. 10 years ago, I said curiosity was a basic instinct unsuitable for advanced learning. I was wrong. But my error was deeper than I realized. The crystalline's tones shifted, creating a melody of regret and hope. I have existed for over 10,000 years. In that time, I have mastered mathematics beyond most species' comprehension. I have contributed to advances in dimensional theory, quantum harmonics, and temporal mechanics. I am considered one of the foremost scholars in the galaxy. Yet in these past 10 years, observing these students and teachers, I have learned more than in the past 1,000 years. Not more information. I am speaking of understanding, of seeing connections I never noticed, of questioning assumptions I did not know I held. I learned all this because I became curious again. I remembered what it was like to not know and to want to know. The elders' tone became final. The humans asked us why the young ones copy their words. We now know because they are curious. But there is a deeper question. Why did we elders stop being curious? When did we decide having answers was more important than asking questions? And most critically, what did we lose when we made that choice? The vote was called. It was not a vote to adopt the human method. It was a vote to recognize curiosity as a fundamental right of all learners. A vote to encourage questioning, exploration, and cross-species collaboration. A vote to prioritize understanding over information, innovation over tradition, and growth over comfort. The measure passed almost unanimously. As beings began to leave, Sora approached Minho and Hana. Her tentacles were arranged in the Quillari gesture of deep gratitude. She also tried a human smile, her mouth parts moving awkwardly but the emotion clear. Thank you for teaching me it is okay to wonder. Minho knelt to her level. We did not teach you that, Sora. You already knew how to wonder. We just created a space where you felt safe to do it. Is that all teaching is? Creating safe spaces for wondering? Hana joined them. That is a big part of it. What do you think? Sora's tentacles curled thoughtfully. I think teaching is being curious together. You wonder about us and we wonder about everything. And together we all learn. Minho and Hana looked at each other and nodded. That might be the best definition of teaching I have ever heard, Minho said. Years later, historians would mark this as the beginning of the Second Galactic Renaissance. The first had been when species learned to travel between stars and build a community of different worlds. That created the Galactic Council. But the Second Renaissance was different. It was not about mastering technology or organizing governments. It was about